structure at all. It was composed of a series of mostly urban congregations who elected their own leaders and, despite some commonalities in required beliefs, personal behavior, and institutional organization, for the most part ran their own affairs independently. Much remained in flux. Even such a fundamental Christian doctrine as that of the Holy Trinity only began to find a generally agreed formulation after Constantine's conversion, and many issues of theory and practice, in any religion these tend to be closely interconnected, remained unresolved for a long time. Clare and Francis were cases in point. Despite their avowed New Testament values, they lived their religious lives within a specific understanding of what it meant to be a good Christian, an understanding which had been articulated by Paris theologians working within a century of their births. The preaching order which Francis founded was dedicated to spreading, Europe-wide, a view of heaven, hell, and purgatory. This encompassed both the effects of sin upon the post-mortem destinations of individual human souls and how behaviors of individuals and of those who loved them in the here and now could affect their soul's future, and in the case of the dead, current fate. This clear vision of the soul's three possible destinations after death, and of the precise effects of particular sins in deciding which should apply, emerged only in the 12th and 13th centuries. The idea that good actions might make up for bad ones was an extremely old one within the Christian tradition, but no comprehensive or coherent set of tariffs and remedies had ever previously been worked out. Nor, even if it had, would there have been the slightest possibility, before this era, of it winning widespread adoption. Despite what it liked to pretend, and some of its apologists still do, papal religious authority was an astonishingly late phenomenon within the developing European Christian tradition. Bishops of Rome, as the heirs of St. Peter, had enormous prestige from an early date, and other Christian leaders periodically sought their opinion on important religious matters. They did not feel remotely bound to follow those opinions, however, if they disagreed with them. Correspondingly, as this book explores, emperors and kings exercised much greater actual religious authority than any pope for many centuries after Constantine, and not just in practice, but also by right, since it was generally accepted that Christian rulers were directly appointed by the Almighty. Only in the 11th century did long-standing papal prestige evolve into an initial formal claim that popes should exercise general religious authority, while it took most of the following century for this claim to become accepted in practice. The religious authority being exercised by Innocent IV in the early 1250s, in other words, was essentially brand new. And as the order Ad Extirpanda makes all too clear, enforcing widespread acceptance of this new authority structure and the doctrines and visions of good Christian piety it chose to support was not just about the kind of persuasively consensual approach that the example and preaching of a Francis or Clare might generate. It also involved the application of considerable coercion, even if not all of it was as brutally direct as the physical torture that could now be legally applied to those deemed to be heretics. This small cluster of events underlines a still broader point. Christianity, in an important sense, is a misleadingly singular noun. The Christian religion to which Constantine gave his allegiance bore little resemblance to the articulated monolithic religious cultural structure that had emerged by the 12th and 13th centuries, and that then dominated the vast majority of Europe's varied landscapes and populations until the Reformation took serious hold in the 1500s. It is precisely the emergence of this extraordinary structure in its full maturity which provides the central focus of this book. As such, its concern will eventually become the Latin Christianity dominated from Rome in the era of papal monarchy, medieval Christendom, literally the area where Christianity rules, par excellence. However, the separation from the Greek-based Orthodox communion was late and far from preordained, so that much of what follows, especially in the earlier chapters, has a broader geographical and cultural focus. Around 1900, when the task was first undertaken by professional historians, and for much of the following century, accounts of the rise of Christendom used to be straightforward to write. From the 1st to the 3rd centuries, the Christian faith spread gradually around the shores of the Mediterranean. In the 4th century, it then overwhelmed Greco-Roman paganism after converting the Emperor Constantine to take over